Would you like to start us off?
Sure, you're ready for
Mm-hmm.
this thing to go
I
down.
am ready for this thing to go down. Yes.
Forward to this. I've been going back and forth with people on Twitter, and they're saying, "Oh, you're just like a console fanboy. How can you think that console exclusives are good?" And I actually have my reasons. It has nothing to do. Let me just make this clear, because people are gonna think this is like PC versus console part two. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not one platform is better than the other, we're not really debating that. The whole purpose of the debate, which I challenge Barry for, because he's pretty much been spewing this rhetoric for his videos over the past few years about how console exclusives are awful and it's anti-consumer and we shouldn't have exclusives anymore. Like every game should be on every platform. So debate because I was getting in on it with a lot of people on Twitter and they didn't understand where I was coming from. So I'm hoping like an actual full debate, clarify my position, and maybe persuade you guys that position is correct. That console exclusives are great for the industry. So it should be fun. So I'm gonna start off. So this is my position. Okay,
Okay.
console exclusives. Really about first party in-house exclusives. Okay, I'm not talking about timed exclusive content or third party exclusive content like Tomb Raider on the Xbox back in the day and Titanfall 1, those types of exclusives. I'm not talking about those. Uncharted, Super Mario Brothers, God of War, etc. Those type of games.
Uh.
So I just need to clarify that because I'm not talking about the third party exclusives or the timed exclusive content. I'm talking about actual first party in-house content. So hopefully that's what I'm talking about here.
Okay.
Right. So that clear. Exclusives are a great thing for the gaming industry as a whole because the main thing that differentiates consoles from other consoles or even other console or even other platforms that aren't console like PC differentiates one platform for the other is their exclusive content. When you take that away, anything that sets that particular platform apart from the competing platforms. So Barry, let's say an exclusive content across the board is phased out in the gaming industry. No more PS4 exclusives, no more Xbox exclusives. Well, we already don't have Xbox exclusive anymore, but that's a conversation for another day. Um, no more Nintendo exclusives, nothing, right? Every game is playable on every platform.
Right.
What ends up happening is this. There will be much less competition if you get what you want. Without exclusive games, do we really need three console manufacturers and the PC platform?
Are you asking?
Exclusives? No, it was more of a rhetorical
Okay.
question.
Okay.
Don't get me. I'll let you do your rebuttal.
All right.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
Sorry.
Um, that whole thing that especially applies to Nintendo.
Right.
Point of Nintendo making a console because the whole reason to buy a Switch, people bought a Switch was for Zelda. I mean, I don't think we could dispute that. The only reason why people bought Wii U were their first party IPs. So this is especially the case with Nintendo, but it's also the case with Sony with God of War. I mean, that game is like crazy popular right now. But there would be absolutely no need for Nintendo to be a console manufacturer, with their main selling point being their first party IPs. Switch, like I said, at its launch was Breath of the Wild. If that game was available on other platforms, do you really think that the Switch would have taken off like it did? Not buying that. So Nintendo would have no reason to make consoles if they gave away the one thing that sets it apart to their competition. And that's the point I'm trying to get across to you. Viewers that actually think exclusives are really bad. Exclusive content is the driving force for competition in a free market economy. And that's the case for all entertainment industries, really. This doesn't just apply to gaming. The TV and movie industry is a great example of this. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, they all compete with one another. They all have exclusive shows that you can only watch on that one platform. So, and the main way, that's the main way that people decide, I'm going to be a subscriber of Netflix over Hulu or vice versa. So without that incentive, there would really be no need to have multiple streaming services. Now, would there be? So, okay, this is going to be your opportunity to counter everything I've said so far, because I'm sure you have a lot of objections to what I've been saying.
I do.
So, but before you do your rebuttal,
okay,
this is really the whole central point of my argument. Is this okay? Without those, how else can console manufacturers compete with one another? And how do you expect them all to make as much money as they are making now when you're advocating for them to give up the one thing that sets it apart from their competitors?
Okay.
So for you.
When it comes to this, you made a fantastic point, and I think you just missed, just by a hair, where that should have taken you, I feel. If you are a corporation that banks on one thing to keep you alive, you're probably not doing very well. That means you're surviving, you're thriving off that one thing. And if that one thing is exclusives, maybe the business model's flawed, right? If that one thing is keeping you alive. So here's my thought. You're absolutely right. Sony and Microsoft, I disagree with you on the Nintendo thing, and I'll get to that in a second. Sony and Microsoft are the exact same box. Pretty much spec-wise, they're the exact same.
Absolutely.
They're the exact same box.
Yeah, we can agree on that. That's pretty much my point, actually.
Right? So with that, if all exclusives were everywhere, what would be the point of Sony and Microsoft's box? There'd be no reason to buy one, because you could just have a computer, right? However...
We're agreeing on this.
Right. However, the one thing that does set them apart is what I would consider a lazy practice that promotes fanboyism, anti-consumerism, and restricts development. Right? This is what I would call it. Companies like Nintendo are different. The reason I would buy a Switch is not because I want Breath of the Wild, which actually I'm playing on my computer. I will tell you, I purchased a copy of Breath of the Wild and I'm playing it on my computer. The reason that I would buy a Switch is because the Switch innovates, unlike Sony and Microsoft. The Switch lets me play games anywhere I want to. The Switch has controls that feed into the video game. I actually wrote something for this because I had assumed you would bring up Nintendo. I didn't know you would bash them. I thought this would be part of your point, because they're a very good company to talk about exclusives from. And let me read what I wrote. I said, Nintendo isn't restrictive in their input devices as much as Sony and Microsoft are. With Sony and Microsoft, all you have is a controller, and pretty much you can play 1, 2, 3 genres of video game on a controller. It's not one of those input devices like a PC where you can play multiple different genres from across every platform. However, they design innovative ideas and gimmicks that tie into the games you play. They take you a step further into being part of the game. They actively implore group gaming. They make games designed around the couch. Their exclusives are made by them, not bought from some company and shoved onto their platform. And again, they innovate. Even old games that we've all played before, we can play in a whole new way now because of Nintendo. Skyrim on the toilet.
Okay,
Skyrim
so
on the
just so we're clear, I'll let you finish.
Okay.
But just so we're clear, exclusives are good as long as the console has a shitty gimmick attached to it.
No,
right?
no.
That's what you're saying.
No, it's not. Well, okay, if it's a crappy gimmick in your opinion, that's your opinion. In my opinion, I think that's the thing that would differentiate. It makes Nintendo different than Sony and Microsoft. They're not lazy. They didn't think.
So the PlayStation, well, Microsoft already tried a gimmick, and that was the Kinect.
Yeah.
Did it do so well?
It did. Oh my God, it did. Yes, absolutely. Not for very long. Not for very long. But one of the Kinect games is the most popular games in the entire world. Or Kinect, yeah, one of the Kinect games. Actually, I have this list. Hang on. I preemptively got this list. I was looking up the list of the best-selling video games to see if any of them were exclusives, and not a single one of them are, first of all. They're all multi-platform, or they're Nintendo games, which is very interesting to note. But one of them is an Xbox 360, number 21, sold 24 million copies because it was Kinect Adventures. Imagine that.
That's because those type of games aren't marketed towards gamers. It's towards people outside of gaming.
Either way,
that's why the Wii sold so well. Not because gamers were buying it. It's because people's grandmothers and their aunts and their uncles were buying that console.
Right. The thing is, this was something that differentiated the platform. People like you and I saw that and thought that's innovation. We didn't look and think, oh, look at that. They hostaged.
Within a year, Nintendo, most Wii's were collecting dust.
No, but that's right. That's fine. They still tried. They tried a unique idea.
These type of gimmick. No, okay. Here's what you're not understanding though. These type of gimmick consoles don't have any longevity to them. The Wii had no longevity because the thing is they have to sacrifice hardware for their gimmick to work. That's what Nintendo's doing with the Switch. So here's what's going to end up happening with the Switch, and a lot of people think that, you know, don't agree with me, but this is exactly how it's been going with Nintendo. They have been sacrificing hardware for their gimmicks, and sometimes it's a good, it works, and sometimes it doesn't. The Wii U, but with the Wii, what ended up happening is that it ended up not having much longevity to it. The only games that were being released on it were these just shitty shovelware games. I mean, you had some exclusives here and there, like Mario Galaxy and whatnot, but in terms of actual quality of games, the PS3 and 360 were just ahead of it by miles.
Oh, really? So then...
And here's what... Okay, no. But going back to the Switch, it happened to the Switch, and here's why it's exactly the same reason why the Wii lost its third-party support. Once the PlayStation 5 comes out, Switch can't even catch up to the base PS4. Let's not fool ourselves. It's not even as powerful as the base PS4 model. So imagine how the Switch's third-party support is going to be like when the PS5 comes out. Blown out of the water. It's going to lose third-party support. The PlayStation 5 is just going to completely steal the Switch's thunder. And that's what happens when you sacrifice hardware, gimmicks that that people aren't necessarily into. So the idea that gimmicks saving grace of the console industry, I mean,
no.
I don't buy it.
I'm not saying they are. I'm saying they would be. If these companies weren't lazy enough to just hostage games away, this would be something they'd have to rely on, making their platform different. They would.
How many gamers are pissed off by gimmicks?
I don't know.
How many console gamers are like, we don't give a shit about your fucking gimmicks?
Okay, well,
we don't
then
want
I have a question about that then. If that's true.
One did so shitty.
If that's true.
It did so shitty when it was launched with the Kinect.
If that's true, okay, let's say that. Why is it that there are, in this list of the best-selling video games of all time, there are 7 video games from the Wii and only 1 from the Xbox 360? None of them are from PlayStation. None of them are from the Xbox. They're all multiplats, or they're from the Wii. What is that all about?
That's the same exact market that's playing on their iPads and their iPods right now. That's why the Wii U did so shitty, because people back then, there was no smartphone craze, no mobile craze. Those were the exact people that were playing those types of games. I don't think you're understanding.
But then how's that bad for the industry?
You're trying to transform the industry into a more casual,
and
a more all-inclusive industry.
The gaming
for your
industry
and your aunt. That doesn't necessarily improve
the
quality
gaming
of the
industry is an inclusive industry. If you decide no, we're not going to talk about the mobile market, we're not going to talk about Nintendo, then you're cutting people out. This is the industry, and if it's good for the industry, then I'm going to talk about it. That's Nintendo.
You already have mobile. You already have Nintendo.
Yeah.
A PlayStation 4 and an Xbox One. Not have to worry about the gimmicks.
Okay. Same with PC.
And your point.
I mean, what?
How's this against console exclusives? It's really a completely different debate.
No. It's not a completely different debate. I'm telling you that multiplats will sell better always than exclusives will. And with that in mind, more money for the developers, better opportunities for their next video game. It's just better to have a video game on multiple platforms, and the numbers show it. Look at this. Look at this.
Sony and Microsoft don't make their money from exclusive games. They make it from the PlayStation Store and the Xbox Store. They make it from multi-platform games. We're not disagreeing on this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to make the point that exclusive games are the best-selling thing on the platform. I'm saying exclusives are what draw people into the platform in the first place, and that's their marketing strategy.
Right. But Sony and Microsoft, they're not the industry. They're so far from like what the industry is. They're nothing but a console distributor. When you talk about the industry, I'm talking about the people who matter. The consumers, the developers, the corporations, right? Sony and Microsoft are part of the corporations, but they're not all of the corporations. They are so They're almost irrelevant compared to the rest of, like, let's say consumers. You compare Sony and Microsoft to just consumers, consumers win, because without those, you have no industry. So I am arguing in the place of, because that's what my channel is about, consumerism. When it comes to that, where are the consumers going? The lowest number on this list, number 50, sold 15 million copies, and it was Gran Turismo. That's the PlayStation 2 game. That was the only PlayStation game on this list. But then if you go to look at The Last of Us, 6 million? That's nothing. You look at Halo 5, 5 million. That's nothing compared to this. But if it were on every platform, these developers would have potentially made so much more money. They would have been not hooked to some stupid locked-in console system where they couldn't allow their games to go anywhere. And yes, I will say 100% Sony and Microsoft do help out. Okay? They give money.
So answer this question then. If they'll make so much more money if they just put their games on all platforms, then why haven't they already?
That
much more money. Then why haven't they all done that yet?
But Sony buys them out, man. Sony and Microsoft buy them. Well, okay, like you said, not Microsoft. They buy them out.
Exclusives make them more money, or it doesn't. It's one or the other.
You're right. You're right.
You can't say they're greedy for putting exclusives on their platforms, and on the other hand, saying they're going to make more money. You think you know more than Sony and Microsoft do about how to make money?
No. Otherwise, I'd be richer than them. I would have more money than them.
This point completely falls flat then, doesn't
no,
it?
It doesn't, because you're taking the two and you're thinking that they're mutually exclusive. But you got to look through this real quick, okay? If you take a game like, let's say, what's one of these games on here, right? Minecraft. Minecraft sold 144 million copies according to this list, right? If you took that and you just put it on one platform, it only went to PlayStation, right?
Okay.
Those copies wouldn't have been sold. Those gamers wouldn't have fallen in love with that game. I think when it comes to this,
you're not seeing the bigger
Microsoft picture. Okay,
about what other,
right.
Care about people who aren't their
but
customers.
again, okay. This is
you're trying to argue ethics and morality, but that's not the point of this debate. It's about how the market works.
The point of this debate is, in my opinion, from what I've researched, this practice by Sony and Microsoft especially is the laziest way they can go about keeping consumers. And I don't know.
It works. How can you argue with results?
But it doesn't. It only makes them so much per game.
The PlayStation 4 is one of the best-selling consoles of all time, and its life cycle isn't even over yet.
That's a good point. You're right about that.
Console industry relevant.
It is
God of War.
Only thing that makes
the hottest thing right now. I'm not debating about that. You're kind of proving my point. You're saying it's the only thing that keeps console gaming relevant, and then you're saying we need to take the one thing away that keeps console gaming relevant.
I'm not
and
saying
that somehow makes the industry better.
I'm not saying we need to take the one thing that makes consoles relevant. I'm saying that there are pros.
Those are bad, and they should all go multi-platform. So.
Oh my God.
What are you trying to say?
Pros and cons. Listen, real quick. There are pros and cons to this. Okay. So you can have a game that makes, let's say, okay, that it sells Sony's consoles. What does it matter if it sells Sony's consoles? This is where you're not seeing this. Sony doesn't matter, right? The consumer, the video games, the developers, they're the ones who matter in this situation, right? So if
Sony and Microsoft are the ones that make the exclusive games, so they do matter.
They don't make the exclusive games. They purchase companies to make them for them. They pull EA. They do this. EA does the exact same thing. They purchase companies, make them crank out games. Yes, they do.
Dude.
That's what they're doing.
They fund the project.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Sony and Microsoft's funding, these games would not exist.
You don't know that. Maybe they wouldn't. Maybe they wouldn't, but maybe they would. You don't know that. You think Naughty Dog couldn't make a video game for all platforms and it wouldn't sell? Are you joking me? That would sell.
Who started?
No. It doesn't matter. Put The Last of Us, put Uncharted on any platform.
If Sony wasn't there to fund Crash Bandicoot, Do you think we'd care about Naughty Dog right now?
Do you think Naughty Dog would have made more money had Sony not restricted it to their platform?
Cares about that?
What do you mean who cares about that? That's the industry. That developer makes more money now so that they can fund their next biggest project without being locked to Sony. How cool would that be?
You're so right that they'll make more money by giving their games away to their competitors. Then why haven't they done that yet? Microsoft is kind of starting to do that, except their whole rationale is, well, they're still exclusives because Windows is a Microsoft product, so we can't compete with ourselves, and they've done that. Right? The Xbox Play Anywhere program allows for PC gamers to play Xbox exclusives without needing to own an Xbox One. And you're going to tell me it's a coincidence anywhere close to as much money with Xbox One as they did last generation. The main reason why Xbox is doing so awful this generation, they have almost zero exclusive content, which has pretty much made Xbox a dead brand. Nobody talks about Xbox nearly as much as they do about PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch. Microsoft is self-cannibalizing itself.
Can you prove that it's exclusives?
They haven't. I'll get into that. Don't worry, I will. I'm not just saying shit like you are. Don't worry. They haven't sold half as the amount of consoles as their main competitor. Now, before I let you respond, okay? Now, because this is probably what you're thinking. It's not the exclusives that hurt Xbox. It was the DRM policies. Having to always be on and it being bundled. That's not what killed the Xbox this generation. Those were not the main culprits for the Xbox's failure this generation. Because I know some people may try to take away from my point that exclusive content actually matters. Well, keep in mind that within 1 year release, those controversial policies, which increased consumer interest in the product because it wasn't bundled with the Kinect anymore. That was the second big thing besides the DRM. You having to buy Kinect, and it was $100 more than the PS4, right? And also, you were required, I don't know if you remember this, but you were required to have the Kinect online, always on 24/7. That was a big privacy concern for people. So they reversed that. The Xbox One's release policy specifically is actually pretty interesting because it was just revealed this is kind of off topic, but we'll get back into it about that. But that Microsoft is pretty guilty of violating their customers' privacy. I don't know if you heard about it, but they just announced a couple weeks ago that the crackdown of the sex trafficking on the internet, like you heard about Backpage.com getting shut down and all those other sex trafficking sites. Microsoft decided that they are now monitoring to check for nudity. So can you imagine if the Xbox One was still bundled with the Kinect? Shit show that would be, but yeah, that's kind of off topic. But we'll get back into it. Policies are concerned with Don Matrick, right? Because I'm sure people see that as the defining thing that killed the Xbox this generation. Thing about the DRM policies, they were reversed day one. Xbox's initial sales and gave the PS4 a shit ton of momentum. Those DRM policies and the Kinect policies, they weren't the main reasons for the Xbox One's low sales. That's completely false because look at the Xbox One compared to the PS3 last generation. The PS3 had a much worse launch than the Xbox One had. I'm sure you remember how awful the PS3's launch was, but how did the PS3 eventually catch up to the Xbox 360 in sales? It's that they were pumping out a shit ton of exclusives, and then all of a sudden they're caught up to Microsoft now. You don't think there's a correlation?
Okay, no, and I get that. They did that to further their brand, their image. They don't matter though. They're not the industry. Sony and Microsoft are not the industry. I don't care how they do. I don't care that they promote and make themselves better by manipulating or not manipulating, by hostaging video games. And the thing is, and I looked it up because that was a very good point you made earlier. Why don't these companies who are making games for Sony and Microsoft, why don't they move on? I just looked it up. They're contracted. They can't move on, even if they wanted to. So now that doesn't even work.
Who got them started in the first place?
Well, yeah. No, I totally see what you're saying. But even now, it's at that point that even if they wanted to move on, even if their goal, like they go to you and said, hey, we don't want to work with Sony anymore. We want to move on because we would make more money. Would that affect you? Now, I don't know the numbers. I don't know the stats. Okay. I don't think either of us do. Naughty Dog, that was who I was looking up specifically. They don't have numbers.
Of course you don't, because you're just arguing with your feelings.
No, I'm not. Oh my God. No, because I showed you with the best-selling, not a single one of these are exclusives. Other than...
Okay, but what does that have to do with one
That's
thing?
what I'm telling you. How... You just put it together, dude. Like, Sony and Microsoft,
the best-selling
games.
games.
Naughty Dog is contracted. Even if they could make so much more money than they would with Sony, they cannot leave Sony right now. Let's say, and I can't say for certain, but they make a video game that is just as popular as Uncharted or The Last of Us, but was open to everyone instead of just restricted. And there are people like me who will not purchase a console because of a dumb exclusive, and then I get to play it. That is potentially way more people to play their game, so much more money, better for the industry. I don't have the numbers. That is just the way it and what are you talking about free market when you're talking about locking games away? Free market is not locking games away. Sorry.
Frustrated that you don't understand the point of exclusives. The point of exclusives isn't to sell that game, it's to sell the console.
Exclusives. Where is it? The definition of exclusives is restricted or limited to the person, group, or concerned area. The reason these companies keep players is because they restrict not only the consumers to their platform, but also by restricting developers to their platform as well. Exclusives, by definition, are negative.
That's the point. Exclusives exist, though. It's for competition. It's for you to buy that platform
Lazy
over the other. You said it
yes.
yourself.
I will say 100%. It is the laziest form of competition that Sony and Microsoft could take.
And it works. This isn't just exclusive to the gaming industry.
You say and it works, but where's your numbers for that?
Content.
What do you mean it works? I showed you.
Is the
sales way. The only thing it does is help Sony and Microsoft. And again, who cares about them working out? I care about the industry. This is what I'm talking about. Not Sony and Microsoft.
The most relevant part of the gaming
industry.
No, they're not.
You
don't seem to understand.
No, they're
not. They are.
The consumers, the developers, the publishers, the corporations, those ones are. They'll fit in there, but those two are not the most important.
And you're sharing your feelings, but if
no,
you actually look at the numbers,
no, I'm not.
The console
I'm
market
being
is
broad.
the most relevant.
This is the broadness of the industry. I'm putting the full industry together, and you're saying the only part of the industry that matters is Sony and Microsoft.
To buy those consoles. Consumers are buying those consoles, so I don't understand you're just arguing with your emotions.
Well, then I'll say there are more PC gamers in the world. Easy. There we go. It's the same argument you're making. Right? There are more PC gamers in the world, so it's obviously not important enough to the industry. Actually, here we go. You want this one? You want this one? Hang on, I'm going to send this to you. This is a chart of a 2017 game conference for the most important gaming platform to developers, and it was the PC by 53%. Under smartphones and tablets was the PS4 Pro. Under VR headsets was the Xbox One and Scorpio, which, I mean, it was kind of beginning in 2017. But with that in mind, I guess your Sony and Microsoft is the industry thing. Doesn't matter. It looks like PC is. Let's argue from that one then.
Okay. You know why the PC is number one, right?
Why is the PC number one?
Growth is not authentic at all. It's not because the consumer chooses that we want to go on PC over consoles.
What?
You know why? What? You know why PC gaming is bigger?
What? What?
In the world. No, look, Barry. Okay. This is called basic statistics and basic math.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
The world, more people play on consoles than PC.
What? No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't, dude.
What's the only part of the world where PC gaming is bigger than console gaming?
Dude, what are you talking about? What are you?
Only part of the world besides Eastern Europe where PC gaming is bigger than console gaming.
Are you talking about China?
Is in China.
So China doesn't count?
4 billion people. China doesn't. China counts, but you don't seem to understand. Do you? Okay, let me see if you know this.
Okay.
Why is PC gaming bigger in China?
Why is PC gaming bigger in China?
No, don't look anything up. Don't type.
I'm not looking it up.
Why
I'm curious. I'm asking you. Why is it?
China.
Why is it?
Reason is because the Chinese government banned consoles for 20 years.
Okay.
A few years ago.
Okay. So China.
And you might be saying, well, then why aren't consoles taking off now that they're not banned anymore, right?
Right. I didn't like control that. You know, nobody controlled that. That's just a thing.
Controlling that, consoles are banned were banned in China until 2015.
Okay. Either way, it doesn't like, okay.
The reason why PC gaming is bigger though, and look, PC gaming in 2016, its market was $33 billion. What was China's total gaming market? Was $24 billion.
I wonder if there's how many gaming PCs versus consoles in America. I want to see.
There's no way to quantify that.
Why?
You can't tell who has a PC for gaming and who doesn't have.
You can go just based on.
PC is a general term.
You can go based on Steam then. How many people on Steam? How many gamers on Steam?
Steam is legal in China too.
What does that matter? What do you mean? Like we have to disregard China?
You're trying to act like you're talking about how console gaming is only relevant. Microsoft are holding games hostage to their platforms, and they're trying to control the market. Much controlling the video game market. Because they banned consoles for 20 years, and China makes up for 1/2 of the entire PC market in the world.
And I don't know. That's just a statistic. I don't know how you're using it against anything. Like, it's just a thing that exists. What does this have to do with anything? It proves that, I just said that
PC gaming's growth is not authentic, and you objected to that.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's authentic or not. And look, even if you want to disregard China, I will still argue that there are probably more people playing on the computer than there are people playing games on consoles. I will still argue that easily, even without China. But it doesn't change the fact that the computer is still the most important gaming platform. And with that in mind, why does it matter then if we're going to talk about the industry and we're going to talk about the big boys in the industry? Why can't we talk about that?
Let's use this statistic against you then, the one that you just sent to me.
Okay.
3%.
Wait, what is?
4 Pro 27, Xbox One 22.
Mm-hmm.
Together, and it's pretty much identical. Because that's the add the Switch to that too, and it's bigger than PC.
You're gonna.
Itself
why are you piling up gaming platforms against each other? What if I were to say, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna take PC and Nintendo then? There we go. Now I'm bigger.
Console industry. That's the whole point of this debate.
No, you literally said at the beginning it wasn't about the console industry. You said it was the games industry. Why are you changing that? Come on, buddy. Don't do that.
That was the first thing I said. What was the point of this debate? Console exclusives are good for the industry.
The what industry? The console industry?
Or the industry.
They're not the industry. They're not the industry. Console exclusives are not the industry. We saw that with the list of the most.
Say console exclusives are the industry.
Grand Theft Auto 5.
Console exclusives are what get.
No, it's not. PC gaming makes more money annually than console gaming does. PC gaming easily makes more money annually than console gaming does. It is the more important platform. Do you want to talk about that? You said no.
That's Barry's son. It's more important because of China.
Hang on. Look at this. Grand Theft Auto 5. 90 million copies. 90 million copies. Multi-platform. Tell me an exclusive that's done that. They're not important. Console exclusives are not important to the industry. The only thing they are a gimmick. They themselves are a gimmick attached to a console to make people, to make kids, to make gamers want that console. There's no other reason for me to want a PlayStation other than the exclusive. And even that doesn't do enough for me, because for me, I see right through it. It's the same exact video game I've played before, with just a different story. It's a first-person shooter with stealth elements with a different story. I don't care enough. They're the same exact game. There's nothing new. There's nothing innovative in these games. So what in the hell is even the point of them anyway? That's what I'm saying. But this is just me. That's just my opinion. Okay? That part, my opinion. What does it do for the industry? Literally nothing.
Does for the industry.
Literally nothing.
The console exclusive lead to the creation of great
If
innovative
Sony and
games.
Microsoft didn't have exclusives to fall back on, Sony and Microsoft would die, and a real company that actually tried would stand up in their place. You'd get real competition. You wouldn't get this fake, hey,
Sony
we
and
hostage
Microsoft
video games.
died, we'd have another gaming crash.
Sony and Microsoft what?
Microsoft died like you want them to, the entire gaming industry would crash.
No, it wouldn't. PC's way too strong for the entire gaming market to crash. Again, look at the chart I sent you. The PC is the most important platform. So long as that stays up, it's fine. Everyone's fine. No, everyone's fine. Everyone's fine because, like
you understand this.
No. No, because the
AAA
industry
games
is
that
not
we
Sony
all
and
know
Microsoft.
about.
You seem to think the industry is Sony and Microsoft. They're so insignificant.
Most of the PC industry, like you said, PC is, is generating the most revenue, and most of that revenue doesn't come from the games that
No, they come from AAA
games
games.
that we all know and play.
They come from AAA games. Yeah, exactly.
No.
Yes, they do.
Let me explain something to you. We just went over the whole China thing. The games that you play here,
Okay.
like Call of Duty, Battlefield,
Yeah.
Assassin, like Ubisoft, EA. If the console industry crashed,
Yeah.
they would go out of business instantly.
What? Why? Why would they go out of
Money,
business?
Barry.
Because they make more money on PC? That doesn't make any sense.
Don't make more money on PC.
They do. I literally just showed you this. They make more money on PC.
No, I'm talking about EA. That doesn't prove. Okay,
EA.
where does it say EA makes more money?
Look
on
up
PC?
Ubisoft. Ubisoft literally said that in 2016 and on, they've made more money on the PC than any other platform. They said that. So did Warner Brothers. And Warner Brothers had the Dark Knight bullcrap thing go down. And they still said they made more money on PC. What the hell, dude? Look, there's no crash coming from the console market. It's not going to crash. And exclusives are going to stay exactly where they are. But if they left, Sony and Microsoft would actually, Microsoft's doing okay. Microsoft is doing okay because they're taking a smart route.
Publisher in the industry right now. It's EA.
Okay.
Just video game publisher.
Yeah.
What's consistently their best-selling?
What's their best-selling video game?
It's not PC.
What?
Best-selling platform.
Okay, what is
that they make the most money on?
What is it? EA's best-selling platform. What is it?
Own sells more copies. Their game. Your little fucking computer. You'll find it.
Call of Duty World War II was their best-selling video game.
Oh.
Best-selling games. The Sims on PC at number 10. Need for Speed at number 9. Oh, come on. I want to go to number 1. Oh, come on. I swear to God, if it's like Call of Duty, or not Call of Duty, my God. The Sims, number 1. The Sims on PC.
Where'd you get that from?
www.sportspeeda.com. Let me look up the Wikipedia. Their best-selling titles.
Anymore, right?
Hmm?
The Sims isn't only on PC anymore.
I know it's not only on PC anymore. I'm glad it's not only on PC anymore. I want every gamer to be able to play any video game they want to. Call of Duty.
Well, let's talk about that.
Call of Duty World War II apparently has sold really well. Launched for PS4, Xbox One, and that's interesting. Yeah, it's strange to me that a multiplat sells better than an exclusive. That's just very strange to me. Anyway, what did you want to talk about?
Yeah, so pardon me, but I was pretty much saying that and why console exclusives were great for the industry is because they drive innovation, whether you admit it or not. Okay, so God of War for the PS4 is one of the highest rating games of all time right now, and maybe that's just hype, right? Are also critically acclaimed, and as a matter of fact, you look at the top rated games of Metacritic. Maybe that's just IGN sucking up to Sony and Microsoft, but most of them are console exclusives. Now, why is that? Nintendo and Microsoft, they need their games to be as perfect as possible to attract the most customers to their platform. If all their exclusive games were crap, it would mean nothing. So without the incentive to make the highest quality game, and yes, there's some exceptions. You have the Order 1886 and you have those types of games, but you can't deny for the most part, you might think like, oh, they're just copy pasted games. But most people in the industry, most consumers that aren't you, these are very high quality games, and would be gone if you just make all those games multi-platform. The need to make God of War as great of a game as possible, for Uncharted to be as great of a game as possible, because the reason why that quality control is there is to make the game as good as possible, because they're trying to attract an audience to that platform. Okay, so Sony and Microsoft, they would feel less inclined to make as good games. Let's just compare Sega games from when they were console manufacturers to right now in the multi-platform. It's apples to oranges. You can't compare Sega first-party games from before the Dreamcast, got discontinued and they went third-party. Two time periods for Sega. Sega hasn't been relevant, as nearly as relevant as they have been, console manufacturers. And the reason why that is the case, I mean, like Sonic games are the best example. In the Genesis, Sonic games were the most innovative games at their time. It was high-speed platforming action. Sonic games were so great is because they were competing with Nintendo. So, if you're understanding what I'm saying here, it might be like a little, whatever, but the most innovative games, ones, and that's PC included, because the PC exclusives barriers, so they had the most opportunity to innovate. And Nintendo pretty much created 2D platforming as we know it with Super Mario Brothers on the NES, and revolutionized 3D platforming with Super Mario 64. Hedgehog also innovated. So the most innovative franchise you think of, chances are, they're exclusives.
That
would have never happened if they didn't have the incentive to make the games as great as possible. That's why you have so many shitty multi-platform games compared to exclusives. The quality control is just much higher when we're talking about exclusive games and first-party games compared to multi-platforms.
And I thoroughly disagree. I think that console multiplats actually do show that there's more quality in them a lot of the time than there are in exclusive games. And on that note, if you put God of War on the computer and it was built on the PC, it would have been way more innovative. If you put actually any exclusive on the PC and you were able to use what the computers, the input devices that the computer offers you, easily, no problem, you would make a much better game. And that, I mean, I don't understand this like idea that they're somehow better. Grand Theft Auto 5, like,
but then you have games that have awful PC ports.
Well, yeah, you do, but you have awful console ports too. I mean, what's the point in that?
Hypothetically, right? Let's say, because you're talking about a lot of hypotheticals, so I'll give you one hypothetical.
That's not hypothetical. This is like real life. This happens.
You're giving hypotheticals like, oh, if the industry, if there were no
no,
we'd all be holding hands, singing
hang on a minute,
and we'd all be happy and having a good time.
We wouldn't be happy. Here, look.
That's exactly what you're saying.
I'll tell you. I'll even like games that came to PC and were built on the PC and then moved over were better before they moved over. Battlefield 1942 was a much more unique video game than any of the Battlefields that came after and were put on multi-platform. When it was on the computer...
Okay, so I actually... Okay, no. I find this interesting, and I agree with you on that case.
Okay.
Because it's got better is because they had more money to fund... That's the point you're trying to get with the exclusives.
What? I'm not trying to bargain for... or talk about money here. I'm talking about the ability to implement more into their video game because they had more controllability. They had more... access to inputs, different inputs, keyboard and mouse. They had controllers. You could do anything on the computer. So with that, I could design a video game with more input in mind. I could have an MMO, an RPG, a strategy game, right? And it's not simplified. It's not oversimplified. Whereas I now have a video game that I have to make for a console. I'll just take the Assassin's Creed approach and make it very simple because that's what a console is. It's not innovative. Where's the innovation? Tell me. I mean, okay, here's one, Shadow of Mordor. They innovated the attack mechanics for their video game. It was the same as Batman, it was the same as Assassin's Creed, but it was innovated. So there you go. You got that, but that's a multi-plat.
Oh, so Mario and Sonic didn't innovate?
Mario and Sonic totally innovated. Yeah, they absolutely did. But Mario and Sonic are from developers that actually know what they're doing and how to innovate, right? They're not made, they're from a first party. They're not Naughty Dog. They're not. If Sony made a video game, that would be amazing. They can restrict it to their platform. You said you were wanting to talk about first parties. Sony doesn't have first parties.
They're owned by Sony.
No, they're contracted. Yes, they're owned.
Naughty Dog is owned by Sony.
Yeah, but they can do that with anything. This is the same way EA pulled in like Visceral and DICE. What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything.
That's the point I'm making.
No, because DICE could have been on their own and made a much better game without them, I think. Without EA breathing down their neck?
EA would have still found another company.
But it doesn't matter.
To do that.
DICE would have been better off.
The cycle continues.
DICE would have been better off. That's what I'm saying. The only difference between EA and Microsoft is EA doesn't make a console. That's the only difference. They're the exact same greedy pieces of crap. Same with Sony.
The problem with your anti-consumer rhetoric is this. Reason why, okay, so your whole the whole pro-consumer thing on YouTube, you know, it's such a great thing. Okay, fine. Change because they decide we've had enough. That's what they did with Battlefront 2 with the microtransactions. I was honestly amazed that actually happened. I never expected that to actually happen, right?
Okay.
Oh, you've seen it all the time with certain business practices that companies have done. All gamers have come together and said, we've had enough, and we want change. And with console exclusives, when so many people take pride in their platform having the best exclusives, you think people are going to come together and say, we don't want exclusives anymore? I don't think you're having a realistic approach on achieving the thing that you want to happen.
Well, I think that's because a lot of people have a similar mindset to yourself and don't really understand how that industry works.
Would everybody be able to play every game without any restrictions? Yes. In an ideal world, would we have free healthcare? In an ideal world,
no.
And communism?
No. Because
one's just as realistic as the other.
No. One is not just as realistic. Exclusives leaving is way more reasonable than
you
everyone
just said there's
getting
so many people
healthcare.
like me. You just said it yourself. There are too many people like me.
Yeah. Okay, but here's the thing.
So you're just proving it's not realistic.
No, because there are people like myself who don't like the corporations who see right through the crap they pull and say, no, you didn't need that. You just did that to make money. I see that through the exclusive thing too. And then there are people on the other side who like to, I don't know, maybe don't go this far and you're not this far, worship these companies.
Okay, but you're not seeing the greater point I'm trying to make. So third-party exclusives, like Titanfall.
Like Naughty Dog.
A lump sum. Microsoft paid EA a lump sum to not put their game on the PlayStation, right?
Mm-hmm.
People decided, what people could decide to do in a situation similar to that. Let's say Activision said, if Sony paid Activision half a million, well, not half a million would be way too low, $500 million,
mm-hmm.
the new Call of Duty game on Xbox, what would end up happening is that the market can actually react to that in an authentic way. Microsoft gamers can decide, okay, we're going to boycott Activision now because you decided not to put Call of Duty on our platform. So all Activision games we're going to boycott. You aren't Sony's customer. What are you going to do? Boycott Sony, boycott Nintendo because you want their exclusives? Meanwhile, you're not their customer and you're not supporting them?
I don't want their exclusives. That's not what I'm saying.
So then why are you complaining then if you don't want them?
Because I can still see through, regardless as to whether or not I want to play the game, I can see that it's a bad business practice that hurts the industry.
True, though.
Did you just say true, though?
The
Oh,
industry.
you said that's not true, though. Oh, you said it's not true, though.
It does not hurt the industry. The numbers say otherwise.
Hurts consumers. Hurts consumers. I showed you the numbers. Don't tell me the numbers don't show that. I showed you the numbers. You care about Sony and Microsoft's numbers. I care about industry numbers. This is how we're different right
numbers
now.
are the
I don't
most
care about
relevant
Sony
numbers
and
in the
Microsoft.
entire
No,
industry.
they're not.
Because they're
They're
the two
not.
biggest platforms in the industry.
No,
besides...
they're not. The PC is. If I could argue from the PC, I'm literally telling you that's not true. They're under mobile phones. Sony and Microsoft are under mobile devices. How can you say that they're the most important part of this industry?
And if we,
they're
relied on the PC market, we'd all be playing MMOs and all those type of games.
No. We would be playing AAA games
on
because
PC.
It was a developers conference. There were people like EA there. There were people like Ubisoft there. They care more about the PC as a platform because it makes them more money than the consoles do combined. They've said it. They've shown us the numbers. You can look this up. There was one point in this debate where you almost had me. 10-second Google search, and I came right back. Shoot me with something. Hit me. You're saying the same thing.
That's exactly what you're doing, Barry.
All right. I'm doing it. You know, I'm doing it. But, this is what I'm saying. Sony and Microsoft, don't care about them. I'm hearing the same argument from that point of view. I don't care about them. They're irrelevant to this conversation. They belong in the companies category of the industry. Right? Fine. They do their thing, but they're the same as EA to me. They're the same as Ubisoft to me. They don't matter. Because if they die, I still have Ubisoft. I still have Rockstar. I don't need Sony and Microsoft. They're just there to make their money. They die, whatever. Someone replaces them. They're easy. Consumers, they die? You can't replace consumers. They're too important.
But then what would be the point of having a console over PC then?
There wouldn't be. Exactly. That is the point. There wouldn't be. There's no reason to buy a console. There's no reason. And that's because the markets for Sony and Microsoft, they don't do anything enough to own a console.
There are reasons. There are reasons to own a console over a PC.
There are
multiple
reasons to own a console over PC.
Exclusives.
There are
many different reasons.
No, that's not it. That's not exclusives.
Said besides exclusives.
Okay, sorry. You're still cutting out every so often. Sorry. I'm getting carried away and I'm getting excited.
The earlier point that I made earlier on, if there were no exclusives, and I included Nintendo in this, and as soon as I did, you realize, oh shit, he has a good point. I'm just gonna conveniently exclude Nintendo and say they get a free pass. They can have exclusives.
I literally wrote it down like 4 days ago that Nintendo is out of this category. Nintendo doesn't belong in the anti-consumer exclusive category because they designed their console around the video games. Sony and Microsoft doesn't do that. They're lazy. That's the difference.
Oh my god, Barry.
That is exactly what I wanted you to say. Oh my god, Barry.
Right now from the...
Say it again. Say it again slower.
Dude, you honestly, you're talking more about morals and ethics, and I'm just being realistic, and you're not.
All right, okay, all right.
I'm giving you numbers, and you're like, well, it would be bad. It's not good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man.
That's exactly what you're doing, dude.
Okay, all right. I hope you're having a good time because I'm having a great time right now.
Bulletbarry, to all the Bulletbarry fans, I hope you guys can be consistent with your criticisms because you guys criticized me. You guys criticized me during the PC console debate, rightfully so, that I was arguing more with my feelings than statistics. So I hope you guys are consistent and criticize Barry for doing the exact same thing in this debate.
I hope if you guys see that, you let me know. If you guys see that, because I would like to know if that's something I did. I would never like to be that kind of person. So if I'm doing that,
reasons why things the way they are, and I'm explaining this is why things are the way they are, and he's just arguing. This whole debate, he's just been virtue signaling. What is
the next point? Let's move on to the next point because it's kind of been the same, like Sony and Microsoft stuff. So let's move on to a bigger part of the industry. I'm sure you have stuff to say about that.
But before we get into anything else, I just need to ask because I don't think you've actually fully answered the question. Because you've said like, oh, you know, it's okay if Microsoft and Sony go out of business or whatever, which is whatever. Even though that would cause, if Sony and Microsoft went out of business, that you think that would be great for the industry?
I don't think it would be great for the industry.
Was it good? Was it even good? Was it even good when Sega went out?
No, not at all. Absolutely not. But if they can't make it, that's not up to me to coddle them.
And that's the thing. They are. They are right now.
They're what?
To because of my feelings, we need to change that. Change something that's not even a big issue. Is what I'm saying.
Wait a minute. Hang on. Okay.
Question. Here's the question I want you to
Okay.
answer earlier, though.
Okay.
Without exclusives, okay? I'm not saying how can consoles compete with PC, although that's, that's something. There are plenty of advantages consoles will still have over PC no matter what. But here's the thing. If Sony and Microsoft both get rid of exclusives, like you want them to, you want them all to have multi-platform, whatever, and I've already gone over other reasons why that's not a good thing.
Okay.
Affect the quality of those games, and you disagree, which is fine. We're not going to go back into that. We've said our pieces.
Okay. All right.
But if they do that, and you've pretty much said it, there's no reason over a PlayStation or a PlayStation over an Xbox.
Okay.
And console, right? You've said that.
Mm-hmm.
The question I'm asking you is then, okay, Sony and Microsoft are, right? They're smart. They're smart business people, obviously, to get to where they are right now. How do you think they would? How would they compete with each other? Going to drop out, and with there only being one console in the game, and there being pretty much a monopoly in the console industry. How would that not happen with your exclusives going away? Will compete with each other.
Sony and Microsoft would have to come up with a real way to compete with each other, an innovative, interesting new way. And I think what they would do, more likely than anything else, is Microsoft would probably move over to the PC and develop video games on the PC, like it started to do.
That's why they're not going all the way with that, though.
And then I think Sony would probably become an EA, kind of like it already is, and have people make video games for its own DRM. It would probably.
Here's the problem with both of those. We're going to start off with Microsoft and why that's flawed. The reason why, okay, so Microsoft is going over to PC. Mm-hmm. Why do you think they haven't gone all the way yet? They kind of done a baby step towards it, right? Why do you think they haven't gone all the way and make the entire Xbox interface the same on the PC, like the full Xbox store and its entire catalog available on PC? Why haven't they done that yet?
I don't know. Why haven't they?
Going on to the earlier point that I made, the main source of revenue for console manufacturers is definitely not the consoles. We all know that they sell their consoles at a loss. That's not how they make their money. Because either the exclusives draw people, they make more, they sell more consoles. Not the main source of their revenue. It's third-party software sales, right? We both agree on this, I think, right?
That is 100% true. Yes, it is third-party software sales.
Yes, it's multi-platform games. Can you still hear me, by the way?
Yeah, I can hear you.
See the green coming out of my thing. That's why I was like nervous.
Yeah, when you start sentences, it like cuts you off. But for the most part, I like know what you're saying. You know.
Okay, no problem. So the point I'm trying to get at, since they make the most money from their third-party software, here's the reason why Microsoft completely getting into the PC market. Playing games on the Xbox One are consistently EA games, Ubisoft games, like Overwatch. What do all those companies have in common? Blizzard, EA, and Ubisoft. What do they all have in common?
They make multiplats. They make first-person shooters.
What do they all have in common in terms of their foothold on their involvement in the PC industry? That's a better example. In the PC gaming, they all have their own services, right?
Okay.
Us says, hey, we're going to sell all of our games on PC now. We're gonna Xbox is gonna be a console and a PC thing. It's gonna be like it's gonna be like a cross-platform kind of thing. It's gonna be like the best of both worlds, like a hybrid machine. You know, that kind of thing, which I'm sure people are expecting them to do in the long run. But here's why they haven't done that yet, this generation, when they're fully capable of doing it. And Ubisoft are not going to sell their games on Xbox platform anymore if they do that. You know why?
Why?
Upselling it on Steam, because They are selling. They have their own thing going on PC right now. Why would they let Microsoft share their profits if they went over to PC? You know what I'm trying to say?
So you're saying that Valve will eat their profits away?
Saying that EA and Ubisoft will just flat out refuse to go along with this. That's why they haven't done it yet, Microsoft. Because they're already selling their games on PC with their Origin service, where they don't have to share their profits with Sony or Microsoft on the PC. So Sony and Microsoft decide we're going to expand it to the PC market.
You just cut out again. You stopped at Sony and Microsoft
Okay,
PC market.
in Microsoft, you could hear me perfectly, right?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, if Sony and Microsoft decide to break in and Ubisoft, which have their own services on PC, are going to like that very much.
What keeps Microsoft from putting their games on all of the DRMs?
Be more specific.
So what restricts Microsoft from saying, "Hey, EA, I'm gonna put this game on my store. I'm gonna put this game on your store, and I'm gonna put this game on Valve's store." What stops them from trying to do that, and then saying hell no to the people who want to restrict it?
Okay, but here's the greater point you're not understanding. The revenue that Microsoft can make sales, like for sales of their exclusive games, the sales that they make on their Xbox stores from their multi-platform games, and that includes from publishers that already have a foothold in the PC market. So what's going to end up happening, fully expand, and you got to think there's a reason why they haven't done it yet. Why they haven't completely done it yet. They have every resource available for them to do it. Completely integrated Xbox with Windows. The infrastructure's there. But why haven't they done it yet?
Well, what if that's just not their goal? What if there is no reason? What if that's just not their goal?
On to the first thing you were saying about what Microsoft can do, that wouldn't work.
But there's a lot of things they can do. I mean,
as far as Sony,
I could say what?
Going back to what you were saying about Sony, why that wouldn't work, is because the PlayStation brand is doing awful. Everything else is doing. The only profitable thing Sony has going for them is their PlayStation brand. So if they get rid of their exclusives, which is what sets the PlayStation brand apart from other brands, it would be company suicide.
Yes, and again, that wouldn't matter.
Wouldn't matter if one of the largest tech companies goes bankrupt. It wouldn't matter.
I mean, it's just the way the industry works, man. It's the way it moves. Sony and Mike, you still on this whole thing
you
where
don't.
your
I'm
base,
explaining to you, exclusives are how the industry works, and you're not
no,
getting
your
that.
base argument is Sony and Microsoft are the industry. We've already been through this a million times. Let's move on to a different argument where it's not Sony and Microsoft are the industry, and we talk about the actual industry.
You take the floor then, because I've tried to go over stuff and you've just been what so just move on.
Well, I'm asking the same question. I'm just asking, why is it that Sony and Microsoft are the industry to you? Why is it that they're the industry? Why do you not think of the consumers? Why do you not think of other developers? Why do you not think of other corporations? You only think Sony and Microsoft, and that's
play on
strange
those
to
platforms.
Me. Yeah, but they can play on their Sony and Microsoft dies off, other people will rise up and make their own platforms. I don't understand how you're sitting there thinking no
Atari,
other company would try
right?
it.
Like Atari.
No, but they suck. They suck. A real competitor would jump up. You still have Nintendo. These developers have to go somewhere. They'd go to Nintendo. They'd go to PC.
Without exclusives, there would be no need for multiple consoles. You'd only have one console, and then Sony could pretty much.
We're saying they're dead now. Let's say they're dead now.
No. Let's say they're dead now. Let's say
Sony,
Microsoft, Nintendo, they're all dead. Each and every one of them. Dead.
No, Nintendo wouldn't die. Only Sony and Microsoft would.
A console in the market right now.
Nintendo's Switch is doing really well.
Do whatever the fuck they want then. That's a monopoly.
No. Because I would think actually EA. I think EA would probably make a console. I think
a console.
Ubisoft would probably try. or
You're
any one of, I'm
speculating.
saying any one of these well, yeah, you're putting a hypothetical in front of me. What are you talking about? I'm speculating. No, I just know the future.
Hey,
What are you talking
Barry,
about? I'm speculating.
Your whole debate runs on hypotheticals. What if exclusives were gone?
Because there's a way the industry works now. That's what I'm basing it off of.
The main problem with the gaming industry has nothing to do with exclusives.
When you ask me a question like why do I know that the universe exists, I'll answer with, well, we're here. Here are the facts of what we're here, right? So when you say, hey, what are the facts around exclusives? I'll say, well, they exist. Here's what I have. Here's what I can speculate based on the information I have. I don't know how I could have gone into this debate without that mindset. This is where I have to be, right? So what you're telling me is there's some weird dichotomy where Sony and Microsoft, if they were to die, the whole industry would just wipe out. And that's just unrealistic to me, especially from what I've seen from this industry. Maybe
Nintendo and PC, the gaming industry would be just as fine as
but
it wouldn't
is
just
right now. It wouldn't just be Nintendo and PC. Someone would take the place of Sony and Microsoft. Someone would come up and say, hey, they're dead, but I think I can do better. Here's how I'll actually innovate. Or Sony and Microsoft come back and they say, hey, we didn't innovate our consoles enough. We're going to try something with VR, with augmented reality. We're going to try something new that makes you think, oh, that console offers this. So even though all the platforms have all the same games, I can play this game this way because Sony implemented this.
Then what is your counter to PC gamers then who say Zelda in 1080p 60 frames per second and all that stuff on my PC? Since you think Nintendo's the exception.
Yeah. Okay, what are you talking about? So
there are people who think that exclusives are bad.
Yes.
Few people in that camp that excludes Nintendo for some reason. What about the people who think that Nintendo should also be included in that? That's the thing. That's the one part of your argument that I'm just not getting.
What about the people who think that Nintendo should be involved? Because Nintendo does things differently. They're not worried about the hardware, and which is fine. Like, you can be worried about the hardware, but they're worried about the way their games are played. They're worried about how you play them. They make video games for people so they can play them together on their couch. They make video games that implement control systems where you get more involved into the video game. They create projects like Labo, which I don't really think is very cool that it's made of cardboard, but like it's a thing that you can build with your hands so you can experience the game in a different way. Tell me one time Sony and Microsoft has done that. F those companies. They're lazy. They don't do that crap. That's why Nintendo's different. Because they do something with their platform. And not only that,
because they have gimmicks. Okay, I get it.
No, because their gimmicks are worth something. I don't understand how gimmick is a bad thing. You're sitting there like,
PC exclusives,
how dare we play?
Bad for the industry right now. Are PC exclusives bad for the industry?
PC exclusives are not bad for the industry.
And I already know your argument. It's because there's no technological barrier. If all PC games were multi-platform like Star Citizen or Arma, your response would be like, well, then those games wouldn't be as good as if they were exclusive on PC, right?
There is no video game that can be played on a console that cannot be played on a PC. However, because
except for Nintendo,
of inputs,
right?
Because of input, no, I play all my Nintendo games on my computer. I purchase the video game and I play it on my computer.
Then why is Nintendo the exception? You said they create such a unique experience in the gear.
Because it's not my. Because I'm not interested in that platform. I want to buy a Switch. I will be purchasing a Switch, but I want to play my games on my platform of choice, right? I purchased a copy of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and I played it 4K on my PC. That's how I decided I wanted to play that game as a consumer. If you think that's wrong, well, maybe it's wrong.
Emulator and pirating, right?
That's
how you decided as a consumer. That's the only way you can play it.
I can show you my copy of the game. I can show you my copy of the game. I purchased the video game. Right?
Emulator, right?
Yes, I'm playing it through an emulator. Yes.
So you bought the game, but you don't own the console?
No, I don't own the console.
Well, the thing is, that's why exclusive games exist in the first place, like I said. It's to
right.
sell the console.
And I got around that. Right. As a consumer who wanted to play the game, I purchased their video game, which was the only thing I wanted, and then I played the video game.
I'm just not getting your
How
argument.
is that not how that should work? How is that not how that should
Barry.
work? Video games should be playable by anybody, right? If I want to play
if you
any
want the
game
game
I want
so
to,
much.
No. But here's the thing. I have never one time thought about purchasing an Xbox since I quit 360. I've never once thought about having a PlayStation.
Play the games. That's the reason why you buy an Xbox.
I have not thought one time of playing or purchasing a PlayStation. I have thought multiple times about purchasing the games
your personal
and emulating
not
them,
the actual market and how
emulating
realistically this whole thing works
on my PC. But I have thought about, because of the way Nintendo does things, I'm trying to explain, you said what makes Nintendo different. I have thought of purchasing the Nintendo Switch, and I think I will. Because that is a console that showed me that it knows how to innovate. It knows how to make games that you can play differently. Same reason I got an HTC Vive. I wanted to play in VR. I wanted to try out my video games in a different way. That's how I'm saying these people need to innovate, Microsoft and Sony. Because they don't as of right now.
I'm still not getting it because they already do innovate.
How? They make the same video game over and over again? They have Naughty Dog make the same video game they're great, don't get me wrong. They're fantastic, but they're the same thing.
That's your personal opinion.
No new controls. It's a third-person shooter.
There are a lot of people who disagree with you.
With
stealth elements, majority of people gave it like 10 out of 10 reviews.
It's a fantastic story.
You're just sharing your hatred towards Sony and Microsoft.
But the reviews, no. I'm not sharing hatred towards Sony and Microsoft. And look,
fanboyism, something like that. You're obviously not being objective in this situation.
It's not fanboyism. It's not fanboyism at all. I'm not personally interested in the game. I'm saying that's the reality of it.
Why they sell that they make those exclusives, not because they love gamers. It's because they want you to buy a Switch. They want you to buy a Wii U. They want you to buy whatever other thing they're selling.
And I told you that I love their games on my PC.
Weird, warped reason that you still haven't quite explained yet. Nintendo the exception because it's the total flaw to your entire argument, because it's the one console that you can objectively say that's the only reason to buy that console. So when you mention Nintendo, if you acknowledge Nintendo, your whole argument falls flat. So that's why you're making them as an exception. Yeah.
You see them as the same for some reason, and they're not the same. And I've talked about that.
Barry. They're in the same market. They're in the same industry. What do you mean?
Oh my God. They're in the same industry, but like that's like saying, hey, studios like Blizzard and studios like Nintendo, they're in the same industry. So let's compare them.
Manufacture consoles. They both have similar. Currently, as it stands, they both have the same third-party support.
Do you look at a Nintendo Switch and an Xbox and see the same box? Is that what you're telling me? How can you actually see that? How do you see that? How do you see a Nintendo Switch and a PlayStation and think that's the exact same box?
But I said they're in the same industry. Reasons for doing what they do.
Well, then I'm bringing up Ubisoft again. Ubisoft is competing with Microsoft.
I didn't honestly. I considered you to be like a really smart guy and someone that actually was reasonable, but I'm honestly very surprised. I'm very surprised. I'm not even kidding. I think I've pretty much. I'm going over all my shit. To make some kind of argument. I'm glad you didn't. Try to make some kind of argument that, well, consoles can compete by becoming more like PCs, by like trying to compete with like, one console having the best hardware. I'm glad you didn't make that argument, because that's a really fucking dumb one. Because I had a whole rebuttal for that, just in case you were that stupid.
No, I wouldn't make that argument.
Thankfully you're not, but that's pretty much all I have. I don't know if there's anything else you have got so far, because I've been trying to emphasize my points. I've been trying to explain to you, this is why things are the way they are, and this is why things have to be the way they are, and you're just not getting it.
So let me, before we quit, because I know you're getting a little fed up, before we quit, I have 2 questions that I saved till the end that I would like to ask. Okay? So I'm going to ask you, what does the consumer get out of playing games that other people can't?
Consumers get out of playing Can you repeat that question?
What does the consumer get out of playing a game that other gamers can't?
Get out of watching a show or a movie that another consumer can't.
That's the same question. So what is the answer?
I said from my earlier point that it's competition. Exclusive games, you have, that's the reason why you have multiple consoles in the market.
Okay.
For
so,
Xbox gamers, and that no, let me finish before you move on to your bullshit. Okay, let me
Okay.
Because I really need to emphasize this point. This is the reason why it's good for the entire industry, and maybe it's my fault because I haven't done a good job in emphasizing that point. The reason why it's good for everybody, right? Not just people who play on a PlayStation. Like it's why it's not just good for JTech TV. Why it's not just good for crap game or whatever. Why it's good for everybody, because that's the thing that I think we don't seem to that I maybe not have touched upon enough. Here it is. A little bit before, but just so we're clear. By having another platform that has content you can only get on that platform, let me restructure this. I'm an Xbox gamer, right?
Okay.
Example, because they don't have exclusives anymore, but let's say, hypothetically, that all the Xbox exclusives are actual exclusives that the Xbox has. Whatever. Okay, fine. Like Forza and Gears of War and Halo, whatever. Also having their platform in the market. And their platform of content, it incentivizes Microsoft to make better games for their platform. So that's why it's better for them, because it creates competition.
So it's better for the consumer because it makes competition between the platforms?
It drives the platform that you have that has all those exclusives to make better exclusives.
How does that make it better for the consumer?
Bought a PlayStation 3 when it launched. Shitty console for the first few years of its life cycle, right? Had no games, and it was just an awful. It was just, besides its hardware issues, Yellow Light of Death and all that shit. It was an awful console and had no games, and that's what it was. Then and Microsoft, the reason why it was like that, too confident, right? The PlayStation 2 was just it still is the best-selling console of all time. So they felt like, okay, no, we don't have to worry too much. We can just do whatever the fuck we want. We got this. Then Microsoft kicked their fucking ass for the first few years of the generation, right? That incentivized Sony to be like, oh shit, we actually have to make this console better. So for PlayStation gamers, having games like Halo 3 exclusive to the Xbox and Gears of War and whatever other games that they have, so you could only play on that platform, that incentivized Sony to like, oh shit, we got to step our game up. So okay, Uncharted Drake's Fortune, that's coming out. All these other Killzone, that's coming out. Little Big Planet, that's coming out. Do you remember how many fucking PlayStation exclusives we had back then? There were a lot of them, and that was because their competition was kicking their ass. So that's why competition is the key in this argument, because it just shows. You look at all of gaming history, even from the from the NES days, and especially with the Super Nintendo and the Genesis, each made each other better by having different exclusive content, and that applies to everything. That applies to every, not just gaming industry. That applies to every industry. So when you take that one thing that drives competition away, then you're just gonna destabilize the market, and it's not going to make any gamer better.
Okay. So my next question: how is Microsoft not doing right by the consumer lately?
How is Microsoft not doing right?
By the consumer. How is Microsoft not doing right by the consumer lately?
Giving enough reason to justify them purchasing an Xbox One over a PlayStation. Exclusive content that really is like, oh shit, like, thank God I bought an Xbox, or I justified my purchase. Instead, Xbox One. The Xbox One does not have that much enticing exclusive content this generation. They don't. So that's how Microsoft has failed its consumers, by not trying to compete with Sony. It suffered. You look at the numbers. The Xbox One sales compared to the PlayStation 4. It has nothing to do with that at all. You said it yourself. They're identical. They're identical platforms. They're exactly the same, except the one difference is their exclusives. Then how come the Xbox One, who's had, undisputedly much less exclusives, even if you count the Play Anywhere games, which I'll count for argument's sake, that platform has sold under 30 million units, and the PlayStation 4 has sold 80 million units, if they're both identical platforms with the same exact features like you said they were.
Okay, I have one more question. Can you imagine...
Am I making my point clearer, though? Am I making my point clear?
I mean, it goes along with what you've been saying, so, I mean, it's, for those of us out there who maybe don't understand, we can see through... And, I'm getting your point. I'm getting your point. So,
move on to your second question, then. Fine.
The last question is, let's say Microsoft and Sony, they got rid of exclusives. Can you imagine, if they did this, any world where there would be positive afterward? Like, think of what would happen afterwards. And is there anywhere in your mind where you think, well, actually, if this happened, that would actually be a pretty good thing? If Microsoft and Sony got rid of their exclusives and this happened, that would be awesome. Anything, or no? It's just all bad.
I'm not saying the act in and of itself is not bad. Gamers being able to play games without restrictions, that in and of itself is not bad. My objection to it is not. It's just simply not realistic. On paper, wow. From each according to his ability to each according to his... I know I totally butchered that, but that's the saying of communism. Paper. But is it realistic? No. I mean, I'm trying to make in this, and that's the argument that I have made in this entire debate. Realistic. You cannot realistically have the market that you desire, because if it was realistic...
Okay. All right. That's the rest on my list. That's all I have.
Look, Barry, like, I'm always gonna respect you. You're a respectable human being. You are a good person. I just feel like most of your argument had less to do with, okay, here's how the market works, and here's why it is the way it is. It was more just virtual signaling, like we all need to come together. It would, all this rhetoric that you keep spewing in your videos, which is fine, but that's not how you debate. You don't debate facts. And that's ultimately what it was. That's what this debate was.
Okay. Well, you
obviously
seem
going to disagree on we're never going to agree with each other.
Right. But you seem like you didn't super enjoy this debate as much, which kind of makes me sad, because I am
not disappointed, because I don't feel that I failed as a debater.
All right, well, I guess I'll have to brush up on my debating skills then.
Feel at all. I think I did. I listed every single reason imaginable as to why console exclusives are good. And I think I didn't just I didn't just spew my feelings. I didn't just say, well, it's consoles or exclusives are good because they're good. I did research into it, and I'm
gonna say this. For anyone out there who's watching this video right now, if you're just agreeing with me because I'm Bulletbarry, don't do that. There were points, I'll admit, there were points. I say that there were only seldom points in there where I did speak from my personal opinion, but I feel like I stated that before or after, and I believe that I remained analytical throughout the entire thing. If you don't feel that way, please, by all means, say that, because if I'm not a good debater, then that's something that I need to know.
Say it.
There, I want to keep it perfectly fair.
Let's be. They're not gonna. You can make the disclaimer, but they're not gonna say it.
I'm sure they will. I
get
criticism.
Just one thing before we end this, that I think we need to clarify.
Okay.
At each other a lot. and we've been getting heated a few times. But we just like to do that to each other. Let me just make that clear. We don't actually like have a grudge against each other or anything.
Right. Yeah. No. I actually have this debate here. I think it's some of the greatest time I think I've had with you, CJ. And I know that may sound a little weird, but like I love one thing about debates. I'll have debates every so often, and I don't run across a lot of people who are as competitive as myself, and CJ totally is. So when we get into a debate, it can get competitive, and I, for one, love it. And I know some people are like, "Holy crap, you guys are like at each other's throats," but I'm totally cool with CJ so long as he's like on the same.
We've known each other for so long
page.
at a point that we can insult each other with us knowing that we didn't actually mean it. Like it's like you calling your friend a piece of shit. You know that you don't actually mean it.
Yeah, it's
so
perfectly fine.
Just like don't go at me saying, "Oh my God, how can you attack Barry like that?" Dude, we're cool. We're cool. We've always been cool.
Yeah.
One thing
sure,
I actually didn't. I actually went on YouTube. Apparently, our debate is the most watched debate on the topic of PC versus consoles, with over like 100,000 views.
Wow, that's insane.
History here, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, thank you guys so much for watching. If you stayed this long, I appreciate you. Sorry we didn't live stream it. There's obviously were some audio issues on CJ's end, and also my internet's been kind of crappy lately, so we decided to just record this one. If you guys want to see more debates, perhaps give us some topics. I only invite him on seldom, just when I need to let some stress out and get riled up, and I'm sure he does the same. So anyway, thank you so much, CJ, for coming by. And is there anything you'd like to say before you go?
I do think I'm maybe thinking too ahead of myself. I do think out of the 3 debates that we've had, this is probably my favorite one. I agree. Because it's more based on, it's actually like, I think I probably did better in this debate than the other ones I've had, and it's the better one, I think. Yeah.
I agree. All right. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time.
Yep.